Hey there, welcome back to ZeitgeistOG. Skeletor here with another movie review for you. So, recently I checked out The Fanatic, a very unique movie starring John Travolta and directed by, I can't believe I'm going to say this, Fred Durst of all people. Now, I'm something of a horror fanatic myself, so after seeing the trailer, which looks like a slasher or some kind of horror movie, I was so on board to watch John Travolta murder some people. This, however, is only a very, very small portion of the movie. Initially, I was disappointed because it seemed like it was going to be something completely different from what the trailer offered. But right as I was about to go find another movie, things started to get interesting. They didn't get good, they got interesting. Then they got good. Then it got really freaking dark. See, it's a lot like the 2011 movie Drive, where the trailer presents one thing, and the actual movie is something completely different. Something that pulls you in, and offers you an intense and thought-provoking character study. I'm pretty sure it's for this reason that the movie received such poor reviews. Like a 4.0 from IMDb, a measly 3.5 out of 10 from Rotten Tomatoes, not that they're actually a credible source, and NPR saying that it's a miserable psychodrama. And it only earned $3,153 at the box office, which is really sad considering most movies make a minimum of 6 figures. And it probably didn't help that it only showed in 55 theaters nationwide. John Travolta plays the main character, Moose. And I say main character, and not hero, and it's something I really liked about this movie. There are no clear-cut heroes in this story, instead giving us something of a reflection of the real world. Each character is just trying to live their life, doing what they think is right, essentially making each character their own hero, if only for a few scenes. Moose believes his motives are pure and reasonable, even after he crosses the line from fan to stalker. Hunter Dunbar, the actor Moose obsesses over, thinks he's doing what's right to keep his family safe, and Leah, Moose's only real friend, is just trying to help Moose meet his idol. Now, just to get this out of the way, this boy ain't right, but he's some kind of high-functioning ain't right. Since he has his own apartment, though, instead of holding down an actual job, he's something of a street performer. And Travolta seriously kills it in this role. Like, we're talking Forrest Gump or Gilbert Grape levels of accuracy here. In fact, I'd be willing to say that if this movie was made like 15 or 20 years ago, this would be hailed as his greatest role ever. As the movie progressed, I was constantly amazed at how Travolta's character kept changing from fanboy version of Forrest Gump to a more realistic version of Simple Jack, to some kind of true fanatic. And this change in character isn't unwarranted either. There's a clear progression of events that pushes and challenges Moose more and more until his grasp on reality is eroded, leading to the climax of the film. And just a side note, you remember Simple Jack, right? Remember Tropic Thunder? Remember how before he was Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. was a white guy, pretending to be a black guy, pretending to be in the army? I feel like there's no way in hell that movie could be remade these days, but I digress. Throughout the movie, there's a constant theme. I'm your fan, and without me, you are nothing. This idea evolves from a simple, I'm your fan, can I have your autograph, to the idea that Hunter owes Moose something more than just an autograph. Something much more, much darker, more personal. Early on in the film, we get a pretty good look at Moose's life, and we get a pretty good first impression of the guy. John Travolta's first line in the film, I can't talk long, I gotta poo. At first, this was just laughable, but the more I watched, the more this line made sense. This is the kind of guy who would spend $300 on a vest, not so that his idol could sign it, but so that he'll stand out over the other fans at a meet and greet. The guy who has no verbal filter is the same guy who has a compulsive need to prove that he's the biggest fan that some B-list celebrity has. The two other important factors that make Moose who he is are his home and work life and his interactions with others. And we really begin to unravel who Moose is when we meet Leah. Probably the only person who gives any kind of a crap about this guy. She helps Moose sneak into a fancy dinner party where he sticks out like a sore thumb. This is the first time we see just how socially awkward Moose is, as he's unable to make eye contact with literally anyone. And he's unable to grasp the concept that the party only serves drinks, as in alcohol, and not strawberry milkshakes. Eventually he's told that Hunter Dunbar couldn't make it to the party, which leads to him having a freakout, which then leads to him being ejected from the party, all the while yelling how he's a fan and shouldn't be treated like this. During the fallout of this event, we get a good look at the true dynamic of Moose and Leah's friendship. And while it's not the healthiest, it is the best he's got. And this is really hammered home when we meet his work acquaintance, Todd. Now, Todd shows up at various points throughout the film, but his parts are never long. So, to summarize, Todd and Moose have a very one-sided and very antagonistic relationship. Like Moose, Todd's a street performer, but unlike Moose, he uses his skills to distract the crowd while his buddy Slim pickpockets people. Todd and Slim have a falling out, and now he's trying to bully Moose into filling Slim's role, adding to Moose's mounting stress and anxiety. Now, I understand that there needed to be an extra little bit of external pressure to help push Moose over the edge, but this part just kind of struck me as a little bit odd. Honestly, Moose is the last person I would ever ask to help me discreetly rob people. He has neither the finesse nor the coordination for such things. As a direct response to how Moose is treated later on at a meet and greet, Moose goes home and writes a very strongly worded letter to Hunter, also asking for an autograph. He gets Leah to help hook him up with a Starfinder app. With it, he's able to go find Hunter Dunbar's house, where he attempts to leave the letter only to run into Hunter himself, who runs Moose out of the neighborhood after informing him that there's no mailbox specifically so he doesn't get weird fan mail. This starts Moose on a mission to sneak the letter onto Hunter's doorstep, each day making it a little further and further onto the property, until eventually the maid finds him in the yard, leading to a very of mice and men type of situation. Seeing as how the letter was meant for Hunter and not her, he jumps out of the bushes and grabs her. She yells for him to get away, he yells at her to give Hunter the letter, she's trying to run, he doesn't know his own strength, and accidentally shoves her, her head hitting a concrete bird bath, and she drops dead. Of course, he can't grasp the gravity of the situation and just assumes she's sleeping, and begins telling her about a time that he had a nosebleed. He gets distracted by wind chimes and notices that the house door is open. What comes next is a montage of Moose exploring the house with childlike wonderment, digging through personal belongings, and shenanigans ensue. The entire time I was thinking, Hunter's gonna come home, he's gonna see the dead body, it's all over for you, man. Anytime now. I'm gonna come home and find him. Come on. But no, Moose just dips out after a few hours. But luckily, Fred Durst remembered the golden rule. You don't introduce a gun in the first act unless you use it in the third. Eventually, Moose winds up hiding in the house, waiting for Hunter Dunbar to go to sleep. And once he does, oh boy, does it ever get unsettling. Pictures are taken, fingers are put in mouths. Dude, Moose has no personal boundaries at all. Without knowing any of this happened, Hunter eventually bumps into Moose one day as he's leaving Hunter's neighborhood. Hunter flips out, telling Moose to stop stalking him, or he'll kick his ass. And this is the breaking point for Moose's fragile psyche. This finally sets the poor guy down the path of, I'm not a stalker, how dare you say that to me? I'm a fan, and without me, you're nothing. And this brings us to the climax of the film. Moose breaks into the house one last time, tying up Hunter while he sleeps, and then plays dead on the floor, waiting for him to wake up. After scaring him with the old dead burglar routine, Moose comes back with a Jason mask and knife, with the intent to prove that he can fool the great Hunter Dunbar. After forcing Hunter to repeat the line, "You're my fan, I'm nothing without you," the movie then takes on an almost dreamlike quality, as Moose foolishly lets Hunter go, only for him to deliver a monster ass whooping. Now that the tables have turned, Hunter begins torturing Moose. Deciding to be extra malicious, Hunter stabs Moose in the eye, causing him to hysterically scream and cry, the noise momentarily snapping Hunter back to reality. Realizing what he's done in his moment of clarity, he decides to let Moose go. After all, he doesn't want to go to jail for murder, except holy twist ending, Batman. Once Moose is gone, the police arrive with an arrest warrant for the murder of Hunter's maid, who Hunter didn't even know was dead, and it probably doesn't help that he's covered in some other guy's blood. The last we see of Hunter is him being put into a squad car. Moose limps home, where Leah finds him and tries to get him help. And that's where we end. Did Hunter deserve this? As much as he was an asshole, no, not really. Not something this harsh. Although he probably could have approached the situation a lot differently. Did Moose deserve this? I'm not gonna say yes, but at the same time, this was way too over the top for a mentally challenged guy who didn't know any better. Even if he did technically get away with murder. Probably my biggest issues here are Todd trying to get a clearly clumsy and mentally challenged guy to help him rob people in broad daylight. and the fact that the police just show up to arrest Hunter without questioning him about the maid first. Realistically, the cops would question you and do some digging before they just show up to arrest you for a murder they didn't see you commit. Plus, an arrest warrant would take a few days. There's no way Hunter would have been blindsided like that. I didn't love this movie, but I definitely think it didn't deserve the negative reviews that it got. John Travolta definitely knocked it out of the park on this one. And honestly, I would never expect a movie to be so engrossing from the guy who sings about hot dog water and chocolate starfish. Honestly, I think it just went over a lot of people's heads, but maybe I'm just looking for meaning where there is none. While I don't say this movie is for everyone, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's only 88 minutes, so it's pretty short, and it's a really good character study. It's not really action-packed, but it keeps you on the edge of your seat. You'll definitely be guessing as to what's going to happen, and just how it's going to get blown out of proportion. On a scale from 1 to 5, I'd say this is probably like a 3 or a 4 for its genre. If you're looking for something action-related, you should probably go with the MCU or Transformers or something. Hobbs and Shaw. But this is definitely a good character study and a good thriller. I'd like to leave you with a quote from the opening of the movie. Some people pick themselves up after getting the shit knocked out of them. Others break down like an old station wagon. You can try to put off the inevitable, but eventually, everything breaks down, even a person's spirit. For Zeitgeist Movie Reviews, I've been Skeletor, and let me know in the comments what you think of The Fanatic. Hopefully you enjoy it just like I did. And let us know what movies you'd like us to check out next. For ZeitgeistOG,